The little girl's hand slipped into hers as naturally as if they'd known each other forever. "Will you be our family now?" she whispered, snowflakes melting in her eyelashes. And in that moment, Emma realized that sometimes the family you find is more powerful than the one you're born into. If this story touches your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories that remind us of the magic that can happen when strangers become family. Emma pressed her forehead against the cafe window, watching snowflakes dance in the glow of Christmas lights outside. The coffee shop was nearly empty on Christmas Day, just her, the barista who kept shooting sympathetic glances her way, and now the jingle of the door announcing new customers. She hadn't planned to spend Christmas alone in a cafe. Nobody plans for loneliness. But her flight had been cancelled due to the snowstorm, and her parents' disappointed voices still echoed in her head from their phone call earlier. "Maybe next year, honey," her mother had said, trying to hide the hurt in her voice. 3 years in a row now, Emma had missed family Christmas, first because of work, then a breakup, and now weather. The cafe had been her last resort, the only place open in the small town where she'd been stranded. At least it was warm, with twinkling lights and the scent of cinnamon and coffee creating the illusion of holiday cheer. "Daddy, look! There's a lady all alone." The clear, high voice cut through Emma's thoughts. She turned to see a little girl, perhaps 6 years old, pointing directly at her. The girl wore mismatched mittens and a red coat with a missing button. Behind her stood a tall man with tired eyes and a gentle smile, his hand protectively on his daughter's shoulder. "Sophie, it's not polite to point," he said quietly, but his eyes met Emma's with an apologetic smile. "But Daddy, you said Christmas is for sharing." And she looked sad. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. Was her loneliness that obvious? The man hesitated, then approached her table. "I'm sorry about that. My daughter has no filter." His voice was warm, with a slight rasp that suggested he hadn't been using it much. "I'm Jack, by the way. And this is Sophie." "I'm Emma," she replied, surprised by how good it felt to say her name aloud to someone. "And it's fine, really." Sophie was already climbing onto the chair across from Emma, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Why are you alone on Christmas? Did Santa forget you?" Jack winced. "Sophie." "It's okay," Emma said, finding herself smiling for the first time that day. "My plane couldn't fly because of the snow, so I couldn't get to my family's house." Sophie nodded solemnly. "That happened to my mommy once. But she never came back." The cafe seemed to grow quieter. Jack's face tightened with a pain so familiar that Emma felt it in her own chest. "Sophie, why don't you go ask the nice barista for our hot chocolates?" Jack suggested, gently steering the conversation away. As Sophie skipped to the counter, he turned to Emma. "Sorry about that. My wife passed away 2 years ago. Car accident." Sophie sometimes brings it up in the most unexpected ways. "I'm so sorry," Emma said, meaning it. Her cancelled flight suddenly seemed trivial. "It's just the two of us now," Jack continued, watching his daughter chatting animatedly with the barista. "We're doing okay, though. Taking it one day at a time." Sophie returned balancing 2 mugs of hot chocolate topped with whipped cream. "I got you one too," she announced proudly to Emma. "Daddy said it was okay." "That's very kind of you," Emma said, genuinely touched. "Can we sit with you?" Sophie asked. "Daddy says we shouldn't bother you, but you have the table by the Christmas tree, and I want to be near the tree." Emma looked at Jack, who seemed ready to apologize again. "I'd love the company," she said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. As they settled in, Sophie launched into a detailed account of what Santa had brought her that morning, while Jack occasionally added context or gently corrected exaggerations. Emma found herself laughing at Sophie's animated storytelling, the weight of her loneliness lifting with each minute. "What about you?" Jack asked during a rare pause in Sophie's monologue. Were you heading home for Christmas? Emma nodded. To my parents' house in Vermont. It's been a while since I've been home for the holidays. Why? Sophie asked, her face smeared with whipped cream. The question was innocent, but it made Emma pause. Why had she let 3 Christmases pass without making it home? Work had been the excuse, but the truth was more complicated. Sometimes grown-ups get busy with their lives and forget what's important, she said finally. Jack's eyes met hers, and something passed between them, a recognition, perhaps, of shared regret. Daddy forgets things too, Sophie said matter-of-factly. He forgot to put the star on our tree this year because it was in Mommy's special box, and he doesn't like to open it. Jack's face flushed. Sophie, remember what we talked about? Some things are private. But Emma saw beyond his embarrassment to the grief beneath. My dad used to lift me up to put the star on our tree, she offered. It was my favorite part of Christmas. Sophie's eyes widened. Daddy lifts me up too. But not this year because we forgot the star. We didn't forget, Jack corrected gently. We just decided to try something different this year. Emma recognized the protective lie of a parent. She'd told enough of them herself growing up after her brother died, pretending to be okay so her parents wouldn't worry more than they already did. Change can be good, Emma said, catching Jack's grateful glance. My family changed our traditions too, after my brother passed away. The words had slipped out before she could stop them. She rarely talked about Michael, especially with strangers. But something about this cafe, this day, these people, made the truth feel right. Your brother is in heaven with my mommy? Sophie asked, her voice hushed with wonder. Emma nodded, her throat tight. Yes, I think he is. Then they're not alone on Christmas either, Sophie declared with the simple wisdom of children. Jack reached across the table and squeezed Emma's hand briefly. His touch was warm and steady, and Emma felt something shift inside her, like a door long closed had been nudged open. Outside, the snow continued to fall, transforming the world into something pure and new. Inside, over hot chocolate and shared stories, 3 strangers began to feel less like strangers with each passing moment. As the afternoon wore on, the cafe became their sanctuary from the storm outside. Sophie had convinced the barista to play Christmas music, and now she was twirling between tables, singing along to Jingle Bells, with more enthusiasm than accuracy. She's amazing, Emma said, watching the little girl dance. So resilient. Jack nodded, his eyes never leaving his daughter. Kids adapt better than we do, I think. But she still has moments, nights when she cries for her mother, questions I don't know how to answer. You're doing a great job, Emma said. That's obvious just from spending an afternoon with you both. Some days I'm not so sure, Jack admitted. Today was supposed to be special, our first Christmas just the 2 of us in our new house. We moved here 3 months ago for my job. But I think I made it worse by trying too hard to make everything perfect. What happened? Emma asked. Jack ran a hand through his hair. Burned the Christmas cookies, forgot to charge her new tablet, and then the star incident. Sophie was right about that. I couldn't bring myself to open Caroline's, my wife's, box of special ornaments. So we have a tree with no topper. Christmas doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful, Emma said. Trust me, I've spent years chasing the perfect life, the perfect career, and somehow I ended up alone in a cafe on Christmas Day. Not alone anymore, Jack pointed out with a small smile. Emma felt warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with the hot chocolate. No, not anymore. Sophie bounded back to their table, cheeks flushed from dancing. Emma, do you want to come to our house? We have leftovers from Christmas lunch, and Daddy makes the best mashed potatoes even though he burned the cookies. Jack looked mortified. Sophie, Emma probably has plans. Actually, I don't, Emma said. My hotel room is just me and a TV dinner. But I wouldn't want to impose on your Christmas. You wouldn't be, Jack said, his voice sincere. In fact, it would be nice to have company. If you want to, that is. Emma hesitated. She'd known these people for only a few hours. Yet somehow, they felt more real to her than colleagues she'd worked with for years. Please. Sophie added, her eyes wide and hopeful. I'd love to, Emma found herself saying. Thank you. As they bundled up to brave the snow outside, Emma felt a strange sense of rightness, as if the cancelled flight that had seemed like such a disaster that morning had somehow led her exactly where she needed to be. Jack and Sophie's house was a small cottage on the edge of town, with smoke curling from the chimney and Christmas lights framing the windows. Inside, it was warm and lived in, with moving boxes still stacked in corners and children's drawings taped to the refrigerator. Sorry about the mess, Jack said as they entered. We're still settling in. It's perfect, Emma said honestly. After years of her sterile apartment in the city, the cozy chaos felt refreshingly real. Sophie immediately took Emma's hand and led her on a tour, proudly showing off her bedroom with its unicorn bedspread and the living room where a Christmas tree stood, beautiful but indeed missing its star. See? Sophie pointed. The top is naked. Emma laughed. It's still a beautiful tree. But it's not finished, Sophie insisted with a child's certainty. Jack appeared in the doorway. Sophie, why don't you help me warm up dinner while Emma gets comfortable? As they disappeared into the kitchen, Emma found herself drawn to the family photos on the mantel. Jack and a beautiful woman with Sophie's eyes smiled from several frames, at their wedding, at the hospital with newborn Sophie, at what looked like Sophie's 4th birthday. Caroline. The woman whose absence shaped this household. That's my mommy, Sophie said, returning silently to Emma's side. She was pretty, wasn't she? Very pretty, Emma agreed. You have her smile. Sophie beamed at this. Daddy says that too. He keeps her pictures everywhere so we don't forget her face. The simple statement hit Emma hard. After Michael died, her parents had done the opposite, putting away his photos because they were too painful to see. Maybe that had been a mistake. Maybe forgetting was worse than the pain of remembering. Dinner's ready, Jack called from the dining room. Nothing fancy, just reheated Christmas lunch. But the table told a different story. Jack had set out candles and used what were clearly his best dishes. For a thrown-together meal for unexpected company, he'd gone to considerable effort. This looks amazing, Emma said, taking the seat Sophie patted insistently beside her own. Daddy cooked all morning, Sophie informed her. He said we needed to have traditions even if it's just us now. Jack looked embarrassed but pleased. I'm not much of a cook, but I can follow my mother's recipes well enough. The meal was delicious: roast turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans with almonds, and cranberry sauce that Jack admitted came from a can. They talked easily, like old friends catching up rather than strangers who'd met hours ago. Emma told them about her job as an editor at a publishing house in New York, and Jack shared stories about his work as an environmental engineer, which had brought them to this small town. Daddy fixes rivers, Sophie explained proudly. He makes them clean for the fish. That's important work, Emma said, impressed. Jack shrugged modestly. It's satisfying. Better than my corporate job in the city. After Caroline died, I needed something meaningful, something that made the world better for Sophie's future. As they finished dinner, Sophie's eyelids began to droop, the excitement of the day catching up with her. I think someone needs to get ready for bed, Jack said gently. But Emma just got here, Sophie protested through a yawn. I'll still be here when you're in your pajamas, Emma promised. Maybe I could read you a bedtime story? Sophie's face lit up. Yes. The Christmas one with the mouse. After Sophie had changed and brushed her teeth, Emma sat on the edge of her bed and read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," while Jack leaned against the doorframe, watching them with a soft expression that made Emma's heart beat faster. Will you be here tomorrow? Sophie asked sleepily as Emma finished the story. Emma glanced at Jack, unsure how to answer. Emma probably needs to catch her flight tomorrow if the weather clears, Jack said gently. But she could stay, Sophie insisted. We have the guest room. It has boxes in it, but Daddy could move them. Sophie, Jack began, but Emma interrupted. Actually, my flight was rescheduled for the day after tomorrow, she said. It wasn't a lie, the airline had indeed given her that option. She just hadn't decided whether to take it or try for an earlier flight. So if your dad doesn't mind, maybe we could spend some more time together tomorrow. Sophie's face broke into a delighted smile. We can build a snowman. And make cookies that aren't burned. Jack laughed. I think I've been insulted. But his eyes, when they met Emma's, were warm with gratitude. You're welcome to stay as long as you like, he said softly. After Sophie finally drifted off to sleep, Jack and Emma retreated to the living room, where he built a fire in the fireplace and poured them each a glass of wine. Thank you, he said as they settled on the couch. Today was supposed to be hard, our first Christmas without Caroline, in a new place with no friends or family nearby. You made it special for Sophie. For both of us. I should be thanking you, Emma replied. You rescued me from the saddest Christmas ever. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the fire. Can I ask you something? Jack said finally. You mentioned your brother earlier. Is that why you weren't going home for Christmas before? Because it's difficult? Emma took a sip of wine, considering. Partly, she admitted. Michael died when I was 16. Car accident, like your wife. After that, holidays were different. My parents tried, but there was always his empty chair at the table. As soon as I could, I started making excuses not to go home, work, relationships, anything. I told myself I was too busy, but really, I was just avoiding the pain. I understand that, Jack said quietly. Some days I want to pack up and move somewhere Caroline never existed, where I don't see her in every corner. Does it help? Moving here? Jack considered this. Yes and no. We needed a fresh start, but she's still gone. The difference is, now I'm trying to face that instead of running from it. For Sophie's sake. That takes courage, Emma said. So does going home after staying away, Jack pointed out. Which you were trying to do today. Emma nodded, feeling the truth of his words. Maybe that's what growing up really is, facing the hard things instead of avoiding them. To facing the hard things, Jack said, raising his glass in a toast. Emma clinked her glass against his. And to unexpected Christmas miracles. Outside, the snow had stopped falling, and stars were appearing in the clearing sky. Inside, by firelight, two people who had begun the day as strangers found themselves sharing the kind of conversation that usually takes years of friendship to reach. Emma woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains and the sound of childish laughter outside. For a moment, she was disoriented, then remembered, the café, Jack and Sophie, their invitation. After their fireside conversation had stretched late into the night, Jack had insisted she take the guest room rather than return to her hotel. They'd cleared a path through the boxes, and Emma had fallen asleep in a borrowed t-shirt and sweatpants, more comfortable than she'd felt in years. She dressed quickly in yesterday's clothes and followed the sounds of activity to the kitchen, where she found evidence of breakfast, dirty dishes in the sink and a note on the counter, outside building snowmen. Coffee in the pot. J. Through the window, she could see Jack and Sophie in the backyard, rolling enormous snowballs. Sophie was gesturing dramatically, clearly giving instructions that Jack was following with exaggerated seriousness. Emma poured herself coffee and stepped outside, the cold air bracing after the warmth of the house. Emma! Sophie shouted, running toward her.